Zabriskie, author of Wife for Life, The Power to Succeed in Marriage, and the founder of Wife for Life University. And I'm here today for another episode in our wife support series with members of my Wife for Life Dream Team. And we're going to discuss another email that we've received from our readers and followers and students. And it's a really fascinating topic this time that I'm sure you will relate to. Let me read it to you. Dear Ramona, I'm a newlywed and I'm not sure about how much of a relationship I should have with my in-laws. Some people had told me that my relationship should be through my husband, but he keeps encouraging me to reach out to his mother, especially. What is the best approach for my marriage? What is the best approach for her marriage? I hope you're thinking about it right now and maybe putting some comments below. I'm going to share right off the top my experience with my own mother-in-law, who I call my beloved mother-in-law. She passed away many years ago, but she was my mentor for 21 years in my early marriage, and we were very close. I absolutely credit her with much of the success of my marriage today. So you can tell by that tribute that I actually did have this tremendous relationship where I opened my heart to her and I absorbed the things that she could show me and teach me. And she in turn very much opened her heart to me. And you know what, looking back, I'm not sure if it was she who opened her heart to me first or if it was me opening my heart to her. I can't even remember how it happened. I'm assuming because she was the more mature of the two of us, it was probably her who initiated that. And I'll be forever grateful for that. But I do believe that a strong, stable, thriving kind of relationship with all our family members is imperative. But we cannot underestimate the power of the mother-daughter and the mother-daughter-in-law relationship. And I do think it's worth working on, focusing on, concentrating on, looking to overcome our frustrations. Now, I know there's a lot of myths out there about mother-in-laws, and I've done my best not to live up to those myths because I'm a mother-in-law too. But some of those myths, you know them, they include that a mother-in-law is clingy to her son, that she's overbearing, she's interfering, she tries to control things, manipulate things, that she sort of undermines you as a mother and sometimes as a wife. And, you know, I suppose there are women like that, but I think that probably more often than not, women don't want to be that kind of mother-in-law. They might accidentally fall or default into behaviors that can be interpreted that way, but it would take a pretty mean-spirited woman to be that way all the time and intend to be that way all the time. Most women are not going to be like that. They want to be loved. They want to be involved. They want to be honored. They want to be respected. They want to feel a part of the lives that are going on in your home, your husband's life, your children's life, and especially your life. And honestly, most mother-in-laws have not had a lot of practice. And most have not pre-anticipated, or taken some kind of course or read a book about how to be a mother-in-law. So they're learning as they go. And I believe that as daughters and daughters-in-law, we have some responsibility in developing that relationship. We carry some of the responsibility in laying the groundwork for the kind of relationship we want with our in-laws. Because remember, we are wives for life, wife for life. And that's a really long time that we are going to have to learn and make mistakes and forgive and try again. And that's a long, long time that we're going to be in a relationship, whether we like it or not, with our in-laws. And so it's worth investing in. I'm sure my dream team would agree with me about that. Yep, it's worth it. And so that's what we're here today to discuss, is how do we develop that relationship? How do we invest ourselves in a productive and positive way so that decades from now, we still have this really close, actually, relationship with our mother-in-law. And it will spill into how those parents-in-law, including your father-in-law and his perception of things, it will spill into their relationship with our children and with our husbands. So you hold so much power in, as I say, in developing that. So let's talk about it. How do we develop that kind of relationship? Now, our writer asked specifically, or said that her husband specifically was encouraging her to reach out to her mother-in-law. Dream Team, I know you all have a lot of experience with this. I'm not asking you to share your personal experience because we want to keep the privacy of your relationship with your mother-in-law. We want to honor that. But we've talked about this in the past, all of us, and I know we've come up with many general ideas. And so do you remember what some of those ideas are? Let's share some of them. Emily, what about you? What's some ideas that you've tried or that you think others have tried and that would be helpful this way?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to add that I'm really excited to hear you talk about this relationship, and something that you've been emphasizing recently as we've been in Wife for Life University is that we as women are creators. And one of the ways we can create is our relationships. And I feel like as creators, we have the power to facilitate a good relationship with a mother-in-law. I think, like you said about mothers-in-law not having a training manual, daughters-in-law don't have a training manual either. And so there may be some of us who look at friends and say, oh, they have such a great relationship with their mother-in-law. Why don't I have that? And I really think that it is our power and our privilege as women to create that relationship that we want. And like you said, I think it's about opening our heart and being willing to share. Sometimes we might be nervous about sharing the details of our life, or maybe just not even think it's necessary. Maybe we just forget to include our mother-in-law, and that can make her feel left out and cause her to have some of those clingy, overprotective, behaviors where she just maybe feels left out and wants to be included.
So she could be acting on fear, like, oh, they're forgetting me. Oh, I'm being left out. And if she's reassured that, oh, no, she has a valued place in your family, then she's less prone to those crazy lady sort of behaviors.
Yes, and I think this can particularly happen if you're a woman who's close to your own mother, and she sees that closeness with your mother, and then you don't have that same closeness with her, and maybe she wants that, and maybe she hopes that you'll reach out to her. So just remember that. I would just suggest include her, reach out to her, whether it be invite her to your family blog, send her an email once in a while, call her on the phone, drop by and see her, maybe do something to serve her or surprise her. Anything that you would love, do that. And whatever you're comfortable with, whatever your medium is, whether it's letter writing, blogs, emails, phone calls, do those things and just let her know what you're comfortable sharing about your life. Whether you have kids or not, share about the kids, or share something your husband did that week that particularly surprised you, made you happy, a way that he helped you, and just get her involved and help her feel included. It opens the dialogue and it sort of softens that relationship, I think.
And that is so beautiful, Emily. I know as a mother-in-law, I absolutely treasure every tiny communication from my daughters-in-law, whether it's about themselves. I love it when they tell me about what's going on in their own work or their own lives, but I relish any mention of their husbands, anything positive. I want to hear the positive, frankly. I don't think it's wise to try and establish a relationship with your mother-in-law based on let's talk about all the problems or deficits in your husband. Like, that's something we can share. That doesn't work. She's not going to want to hear that kind of stuff. There are other ways of handling that. We learn all about that in Wife for Life University. But but the positive is a fantastic way to strengthen your relationship with your mother-in-law. And of course, most of all, we love hearing about the children and getting, and in this day and age, you know, I get the little pictures by text or videos, even better, those little moments, you know, and like the world stops when I get one of those, like, oh, right now, everything is about that little video. So I love all those ideas, Emily. That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Now, the emails and stuff I get from, in large part, come from my daughter-in-law who's with us today, Brianne. You're really good at all those things Emily talked about. You have anything to add?
Well, I just want to add that I love that you started by debunking those myths, because I think we grow up in a culture that kind of generalizes about certain relationships, and we can actually end up creating those negative aspects in our relationship with our mother-in-law just by thinking them, just by assuming that she is going to be
we're distrustful and distant.
And I think that I probably was a little nervous about that when I first married into our family, but through being so open, and that's the thing, is you were really open with me, and so then I felt like I could be really open with you. You approached me first, and I was a little, it helped me to be braver and everything, to the point now where, like last night, I had a rough day, came over to your house, and I could immediately fall into my mother-in-law's arms and cry on her shoulder. I mean, that's the ideal for me. She's like a second mom.
That is so beautiful, Bree. That gets to my heart, because I know there are people who want that, and I really think women need to believe that they really can reach for that, and they can strive for it and work to have that. So that's just beautiful.
Well, your mother-in-law can be just another mentor and best friend to you, and that's really, I want to get too emotional, but that's really what Ramona has become to me. I think you can develop that, like through the ways that Emily was saying. If you're really distant, yeah, you're probably gonna have to use email or blogs or phone calls or whatever. I'm lucky now. For 7 years, I lived far away, even as far as 2 different continents at some points in our marriage. But I'm lucky enough now to live just 5 minutes, right, away from my mother-in-law, and so it's help. One of the advice I got on my wedding was to, you know, that they do those little bridal shower things and they give you advice on a little piece of paper. One of them was to move far away from your in-laws. That was what someone said. And that I was so confused by that, honestly. And I know that it's important to set your own family and to have your own family boundaries and everything. But I think this person must have just had the hardest relationship with their in-laws, maybe because there wasn't that openness. So Oscar Wilde in what is that play? The Importance of Being Earnest said, there's a quote, and I'm not going to get it exactly right, but basically one of the men says to the other that they, in order to call each other sister, they had to have called each other a lot of other things first.
Yes, I love that.
And for me, I think Mona and I, you know, didn't call each other a lot of other things first before mother and daughter, but we did have to talk about hard things. In order to really have a close relationship, you have to be willing to be vulnerable.
That's so good. And to work through things so that, like, you can say, as a daughter-in-law, you were able to say to me at different points, I'm uncomfortable with this, or I would rather you didn't do that.
Yep. And
then it was up to me to swallow my pride and go, okay, thank you for explaining that to me.
And also to realize when there are things that I thought, you know, I didn't want, and then realize that's not hurting me. In fact, it's benefiting me. You know, like I you know, just like thinking about like family dinners and the frequency of them or something, like in the beginning of our marriage, when we're newlywed, sure, it was nice to have, to start, we wanted more time together, more closeness, and really figuring out our family and everything. And I was insecure and stuff in my relationship with my husband. So I really wanted to feel like he loved me the most and everything. Now I know he loves me the most. I know no one else can compete. That sounds prideful, but I know it. And I love coming over. We're over here all the time. We're involved in Ramona's movement for women.
So that's an interesting concept. You have the mature woman, the mother, who's used to being number one in her son's life. And that's one of the stereotypes, right? And now she has to accept that there's someone else who's number one in her son's life. And a little message to the mature women who are listening, meaning, my age, that because you're mature too, or just because you're younger doesn't mean you're mature. But the idea of being number one in your son's life, if you've done your job right as a mother through the decades, it's my contention that he's going to have an amazing marriage where this woman does become absolutely number one in his life, and he devotes his life to her and makes her happy. That's if you've done your job right as a mother. And you can step back and watch that and take great satisfaction in that. So there's another positive way of looking at it. Katie. Katie's a newlywed. Now, she did not write this letter, in all fairness. She didn't write the letter. But she's a newlywed. And she and I have talked a lot about, in her first year, how she's establishing a relationship with her mother-in-law, and she's doing very well at it. Katie, I know we weren't going to talk about exact personal situations, but I do remember that I encouraged you to go let your mother take you out clothing shopping like she offered, let her buy you some clothes. You were a little, I don't know why she did that. And I'm like, let her do it. It turned out to be a really fun day, didn't it? Absolutely. Tell us what your take is from the newlywed perspective.
My take from the newlywed perspective. Yeah, I was glad to, I guess sometimes that you do have those feelings like how close is like too close, or how close, or like should I be letting them, I don't know, buy me all this stuff when, or whatever. But I think, like learning to graciously receive that and to appreciate it is important. And also, just thanking them for how they raised the son that you fell in love with. I mean, they must have some credit, right? So, you fell in love with them.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. And Emily, you talked about sending the weekly email or sending any, communicating that way, and including mentions of the great things your husband is doing as a husband or father, something positive along that line. Wouldn't that go a long way to making your mother-in-law's heart sing and making her feel closer to you, and also strengthening her relationship with her own son, and then vice versa? What would happen if you mentioned the positive things about your mother-in-law to your husband? What happens? What do you think could happen, Katie? You've done that. I know you've done that.
Yeah, I think it's validating for one thing. And also, they are their parent. They know their son very well, and I'm sure they've always felt an obligation to raise them the best way, and that takes correction while they're growing up. But sometimes it's good to have pointed out to them what he's blossomed into, and the man that he's become. He's a man.
I love it. Oh, Katie, I think that is such a gem of wisdom, and from a newlywed, because as a parent, yeah, you think about your child sometimes as a child. You sort of default back into that child-parent relationship. especially if you have married the oldest in the family or one of the oldest members, one of their oldest children. This is a whole new world for these parents, isn't it? And that they get better and better at the letting go thing if they have several children, But in the early days, that's a real transition. And you sort of are a teacher then. What you described, is teaching them your beautiful child or the child who caused you trouble, which was in my case true. You don't have, actually they're doing quite well, you don't have to worry so much about them. At that idea of that they have matured and become a man. I appreciate them. I'm working on it. I'm helping him become the man of his dreams. That attitude, that feeling, that's so good. Bravo, Katie, bravo. I absolutely love that. All right, so I acknowledge, we all do, that there are complicated situations, difficult situations where you really have some strong family dynamics that maybe aren't ideal, that you've inherited when you married your husband, or that have complicated situations with multiple marriages and multiple mother-in-laws, who knows. I know those all exist, and so we're not trying to oversimplify. But if any of that is a concern to you, we're going to try and address some of those more complicated situations in future wife supports. But even more importantly, even more helpful, I would strongly recommend and invite you to join us at Wife for Life University, which is our 10-week course that we go in depth into all kinds of subjects that have to do with our marriage, and that will help us grow stride toward the grand marriage, that relationship that is that romance that is remembered and influential for generations, and we believe is possible for almost every woman. So we hope that we will see you there and that we can enjoy your company and learn from you as much as you learn from us. And until then, we'll see you at our next Wife Support. And we hope that you go and have lunch with your mother-in-law this week. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Any last words of wisdom, Dream Team? All right. I love you all. And love you all. Bye. See you next time.